They're jacked with Pepsi.
I'm there for the pack out. You just got to pack me in.
Committed to the boat early on. Like I love getting close and putting a.
You cover a range of stuff on here too, right? Like
We call this the THP World Headquarters.
You know, my grandpa Roy Weatherby.
I came into like that golden little pocket where there was like 4 or 5 different bowls. Just
You're Canadian? We're doing a Canadian podcast?
My name's Douglas Bode.
I'm Robbie Denning.
Roy Candy.
Well, Mike, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. Really looking forward to this podcast, actually. I've been following your stuff you got going on for quite a while on Instagram and stuff, and then seeing you at the Sheep Show just initiated the kind of conversation about this very niche rifle building that you're doing. It's really, really fascinating, man.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a journey, I'll say that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's I guess maybe we should start there. I can tell you a little
if you want to give
about,
the listeners a quick introduction with yourself,
Sure.
and how you got into building or, hunting in general, and how you got into all this.
Sure. You bet. Yeah. I'm Mike Drury, owner of ALPINE RIFLECRAFT. I live in Calgary, Alberta, and grew up in Saskatchewan. Went to high school there, finished high school, and moved west. It would have been late 90s, so I'm dating myself. Went to U of C and did a mechanical engineering degree. And yeah, I just fell in love with being in the mountains and eventually found sheep hunting in the early 2000s. And that was really the hook. So I've been a big game hunter for a long time, but most of my time is spent chasing sheep for sure. Yeah.
So I would assume that that's kind of your entrepreneurial spirit coming out, is you probably weren't finding what you're looking for in the market, and you took it upon yourself to start building this stuff.
That essentially, yeah. I mean, early days, I think the first rifle I ever bought myself was a Remington stainless 7 mag, and it saw quite a few modifications.
Yeah, I did it have the HS stock?
It didn't have an HS stock. I wound up putting a Brown Precision Kevlar stock on it. Among a bunch of other parts. And
Yeah.
it was kind of a cobbled together beast, but it worked. It served its purpose, spray bomb, paint job, and all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So-
then, just from there, as we do, you get every piece of gear you start to scrutinize that you're packing around, and the rifle was no different for me. So you just kind of, even, to this day, I'm sure you're the same. You're chasing that next thing that's going to make you be able to stay out there longer, hunt harder, be more successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. That's almost obsessively, to be honest. It gets a little out of hand. You almost have to say, this is good enough, because you're always chasing triggers and stocks, and there's always some new thing emerging from the market. Have you always been a hunter?
Yeah, I have. I wasn't a big game hunter when I lived in Saskatchewan, so I grew up in a single parent home, and my dad hunted big game when he could, but I mean, I basically just went around as a farm kid shooting at stuff, and doing some predator management now and then, or spend an evening at the beaver dam, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't until I moved out to Alberta that I actually got into hunting big game for
So did you
myself.
just jump both feet into sheep right away?
Pretty much, it was it's a funny story actually. So I was pretty heavy into snowboarding, and we'd go into the Highwood Pass to go get get some early season turns
Mm-hmm.
On Highway 40. And I remember one of the first Novembers I ever went with some buddies from university when I was at the U of C doing my engineering degree. And we get up, we hike up through the tree line into the Alpine, and there's a band of probably 8 or 10 bighorn rams. And yeah, at that point it was like, I'd never seen one off the highway before, and it was
Yeah,
just
I would
I
imagine
fell in
that'd be
love with it.
pretty jaw-dropping.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was super powerful. I mean, I don't think my friends got it though, obviously, the way that
Yeah.
I was struck. And then, do a little digging and find out that you can hunt these things on a general tag. It was like, where do I start?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't come at it with any prior experience or a mentor. Yeah, it was just a lot of hard lessons over time. Yeah, but it's good. You learn it. You take your licks and you learn it the hard way, and it's ingrained in your mind, and you slowly build your craft. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just so much fun chasing sheep. Yeah, I love all hunting. Me, that's really the pinnacle.
Yeah, I would say that's the pinnacle. It's the hardest. I would say,
Yeah,
there's other, you could say elk, the elk hunters, but for where you're hunting them and how majestic they are and the locations that they take you, I don't know if there's a higher animal
yeah,
put on a pedestal than especially bighorns. That's for sure.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, it's yeah, just a, over 20-year passion chasing sheep, and I guess mixed with a couple decades of mechanical engineering background, and just wanting to improve my gear. And ultimately it came to rifles, and I bought some ultra lightweight stuff, and um, just didn't have all the features and the performance that I wanted. So I thought, how hard could it be to, create my own?
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure you got a lot of skills along the way because I
Oh,
don't see everybody starting up their own rifle building company. That's for sure.
no, no.
So
I
hat
think
off to you.
if I knew what I knew now, I might not have gone down the path, but
Yeah,
here I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine one step after another, you eventually end up there, and you're like, oh, like yeah, I really had to adapt like CNC and lathe and a
Oh,
lot of other skills, let alone being a
yeah.
mechanical engineer. That's that's some really technical stuff there.
Yeah, the design aspect, I mean, I think the biggest jump for me was not necessarily the engineering part, but design for manufacture, and being able to, turn these ideas into something that is actually manufacturable, um, you know,
Hmm.
to some kind of scale. Um, yeah, that was challenging. So many iterations of all the parts, that go into the rifle to finally get to something that we could produce. So yeah, it's been about a 5-year journey to get here now. Yeah, from inception of the design, and working through, um, you know, design for manufacture and prototyping and testing, and yeah, lots of rework, lots of prototypes. Um, but it's been fun too. Obviously, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't passionate about it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Blending both
yeah,
your education and hunting,
yeah,
that seems that's you're living the dream there. Tell me about some of
totally.
your methodology behind your builds, because I know
Sure.
you are making a very niche style rifle. So
Yeah,
just break that down as far as like, well, like obviously we'll get into some of the builds and design features, but
yep,
why don't you break down your basic methodology around your builds?
sure, sure. So I guess overall, there was three kind of driving forces. Um, One, I've always been a fan of controlled round feed actions and some of those classic features. Like if you look at some of the old, um, high-end controlled ground feed actions, the Rigby's. They integrate the scope mounts into the bridges. Just a lot of like integrated quality features, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love that stuff. It's hard to manufacture, which is why it's not commonplace in the industry.
Yeah.
But I looked at that, and that was the dream. The unfortunate part is those actions are like 3 pounds. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much a non-starter for a mountain hunting rifle. Um, but I wanted to combine something that had these classic features um, into a design that was lightweight, but still shot extremely well. Um, and I don't mean shot well as in we're going to shoot a 2-inch group at 1,000 yards, because that's not what these rifles are.
No. No.
They're not competing with, y- you know, um, large Magnum.
Like a 12
Uh,
pound
yeah,
chassis. Yeah. That's
yeah,
not what this is for. No.
that's not what this is for. Um, but to have something super light that still handles really well, right, fits well, is super supportive, has the right balance, and all of those nice hunting rifle features. So that was, I mean, there's a lot in that, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but that that's kind of the starting point. So I probably mashed all those into one, but really it had to have the good ergonomics, uh, balance really well, because I find lots of ultralights don't balance well at all. They're rear heavy, right? You
Yeah.
get a skinny barrel,
Yeah.
um, so they're hard to control. So yeah, the ergonomics, the balance, and then that classic rifle featured action.
So
Those
talk a
were
little
really
bit
the
about the
three key
materials that
points.
you're using. Like I know it
Sure.
like so it's loosely based off of like obviously you have your own design, but like a Mauser style.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you could call it a Mauser style or a Winchester Model 70 style action. I've got a receiver here. Um, and really, this is where the design starts. And it was trying to find the right material for the receiver. Uh, I did want to go with a titanium receiver just for weight,
Mm-hmm.
but I also recognize there's some issues with, um, not necessarily true issues, but definitely some perceived issues with titanium receivers. One of them being longevity, I think is a definite perceived issue with titanium receivers. The other one would be just feel. A lot of people talk about a grittiness or a stickiness
Mm-hmm.
to titanium receivers, and the weight's wonderful, but if you can't kind of work around those other two problems, then I didn't think it would be viable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so really, the material aspect for the receiver was, can I get around those two issues? Um, and to speak a bit about the longevity, the problem with grade 5 titanium, which is generally what's used for all titanium receivers, is and I'm gonna nerd out a bit here and go go a little bit down the rabbit hole, but the grade 5 is an alpha beta phase titanium. So it has two types of grain structure essentially. Um, and the grade I'm using is 6246, and it is a straight beta phase titanium. And the difference there is really, at least for my purposes, is how they behave um, under fatigue loading. So,
Yeah.
like a receiver application where it's going to get, you know, heavily loaded over and over and over, hopefully thousands or tens of thousands of times. The problem with grade 5 being an alpha beta grade is that it never maintains a allowable stress. It will constantly degrade over time. And so eventually grade 5 titaniums will fail, that you get crack initiation is usually what happens. Um, whereas the 6246 being a beta phase, it's essentially, it behaves like steel. So eventually you cycle it enough and it will maintain a certain level of stress for infinity. And if you don't exceed that level of stress, then you don't fail it. So it's in that regard, it definitely puts to rest the idea that you know, a titanium action has to have a finite life. So this receiver is going to last as long as the rifle is capable of being shot. It's pass it down to your kids, their kids, whatever. Like the material is top notch for sure. And on the feel side, like with the grittiness of titanium, this titanium starts out at Rockwell 40, so it's a heat treated bar, so it's hard. A lot of rifle bolts actually are only Rockwell 40, and the receivers are softer, so it's very hard to start with. And then we nitride we use a 4330 alloy steel bolt and nitride it, so it's like Rockwell 60. So the high difference in hardness there really makes them slick. Like there's
you don't get that gummy
exactly
feel to it.
Yeah. Like I've got a few here in my office tonight, and I was actually just out at the range with a guy today, and they're just like, they're super slick. Nothing beats having it in your hand, but it's yeah. Did you pick one up at the show? I can't remember.
I did. Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
That one and the other one that was there on display. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the material side, I think the big problem there was solving those two issues for me with material selection, and I believe we've done that with this. So yeah, pretty happy. I couldn't be happier how the receivers turned out, actually.
What kind of weight savings are you getting from going with that titanium versus a steel action?
Yeah, so titanium weighs about 60% of steel, 58%. So this receiver is 7 3/4 ounces, so just under half a pound for this receiver. The whole action weighs about 17 ounces, and we're knocking, call it 5 6 ounces out of the receiver itself just by going to titanium. And I think the bigger thing even than just saying it's a titanium receiver is really trying to I talked about balance. It's really trying to remove weight from where you don't want it. And light rifles I've had in the past, part of what makes them challenging to shoot well is that they don't have that muzzle heavy bias. So removing weight from the action, from the stock, and then using a medium contour barrel, it really changes the personality.
Yeah, it probably increases the accuracy as well, because you can lower weight where you need to and then beef it up on the barrel.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about like I seen the bottom of your actions. Why'd you choose that style versus like octagonal or like rounded or smooth flat face? Like, do you want to talk about that? And then maybe like, what's the max load that it can handle for PSI or cartridge size that you recommend? Like, what's the range? And then bottom metal configurations that you're choosing, because I noticed there's some pretty special features to even cut down further on weight there on some of your rifles.
Yes. Yeah, you bet. So yeah, part of what we did with the receiver, and I'll show you this one here. I really wanted to incorporate the scope mount dovetails into the receiver itself. I think one of the niceties about that is you're relying on clamp force to hold your rings in place, and you can always check the torque. So you're never really You're never worried if those rings have come loose under, or
Yeah.
those screws have come loose under your scope. So all the fasteners are accessible. And essentially what that did to the design was it basically threw the round body option out the window.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the profile here. And the underside, like you said, it's faceted. We've got some good flats there, so we have some solid bedding surface. And essentially, once we went away from round, there's just no way to go back.
Yeah.
Unless you want to surface mill for hours to try and get a round surface. So I went to a flat design, and essentially, yeah, added some fillets on the side to smooth it out, and it definitely is a unique looking action for sure.
Yeah. How does that
Um,
interface with your bottom metal?
sure. So if you look on the bottom here, it's basically just a slot. Um, and then there's a recess where the magazine lips fit. So I've got a magazine here. The magazines we make are billet aluminum, so they're 7075 aluminum, and we make three different styles. And I'll talk about this for cartridge selection too, because it's kind of part and parcel of the design. But we have three different magazines and follower combinations. There's one for the Creedmoor cases, there's one for the 308 based cases, and one for the 284 cases. So this action it's a standard bolt face action only. So really the biggest cartridge we can put in it is a 284 Winchester 6.5 284 Norma.
Oh, my
Yeah.
kids love those the 6.5s.
Yeah.
We shot them for a long time, out to like 1,200 yards. They love them.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a
Yeah, no,
unique thing. It's not something that you see too much.
no.
So what are you doing for case availability, and what do you suggest to customers?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on if you hand load or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys that I talk to who aren't hand loaders, and they want to buy off the shelf ammo. And for that, it's really the 6.5 Creedmoor 708 308 are the best choices. Pick your poison there. I know a lot of people feel
Mm-hmm.
the Creedmoor is too small in some applications, and for sheep, I don't think it is, but
No, I don't
definitely
think so.
to step up, if you want to use it more as an all-around rifle, 500 yards and in, I think the 708 and the 308 are better choices. And then guys who are hand loaders, I mean,
Yep.
yeah, get the 284. If you're a 7 mil guy, get the 6.5. I haven't actually released any 6.5s yet. I just spun up the first one here this week, and I'm gonna go shoot it here hopefully next week, and get that up on the website. I'm just trying to confirm that the standard Norma chamber is the way we want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to the action, do you want to,
Yeah.
like, I know why you chose that particular type of action. Do you want to talk about extraction and the benefits of that?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um, I mean, a lot of people, I guess I assume everybody knows what a controlled round feed action is,
Mm-hmm.
um, but that's not necessarily the case. So the idea being that as you strip that cartridge out of the magazine, it is essentially controlled the entire way into the chamber by the bolt face and the extractor. So it's always in contact with something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once it's in the chamber and now you're withdrawing it, that big extractor is holding onto the cartridge rim and holding it in the bolt face as you pull it out. So the ejector is fixed on these rifles as well. So, you can eject as fast or as slow as you want. It's
Yeah.
not like a plunger style where it's just going to snap out of the out of the out of the port. But yeah, I can probably show you here, give you a good So as you strip that cartridge, it pops up into the bolt face. Now it's controlled,
Yeah. Not like a
right?
Remington where it's loose.
That's right. It's never loose. So now as you pull back, right? Okay, it's out of the chamber, but you've still got a hold of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does
So
that mean for people that for like stripping a case out? You could probably strip the head off even. It's probably that powerful.
it's super powerful. Yeah, like the
Yeah.
extractors, it's 440C stainless steel at Rockwell 40. So
Yeah.
it's like knife blade steel that's hard.
Yeah.
And it's got almost 3/8 of an inch of contact on the case head. So if you do have a stuck case, you're
If it's
yeah, you're
able to
either
be removed, you're getting
yeah,
it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's either
Yeah.
coming out or you're tearing the head off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
or the
big
or the
selling
rim.
feature. Yeah, yeah, that's a big selling
Yeah.
feature for me because just dealing with extractor problems and just you've
Yeah.
probably dealt with that. Just shitty designs. They don't have the
That's right.
right extractor or ejector. It's just not a good design, right? The old style. Like
Yeah.
this is a very robust uh
It is.
configuration. Yeah.
It is. And ultimately, I mean, that's why I went that route. I mean, I'll pop out a bolt here just so you can see the bolt face. Um, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
if we're in focus there. But yeah, it's lots of surface area on the extractor. Um, it's just robust, right?
Yeah.
There's about 5 or 8 thou of interference between the extractor and the case head, and that's what keeps your tension on the case head.
Hmm.
Um, the other aspect to what we've done is that the extractor is actually dovetailed to the case head or to the bolt head. I'm sorry. Um, so as you pull back, the dovetail in the bolt head and the extractor engage, and so that extractor can't pop out of its groove. It's physically fixed in
Yeah.
place. So, it's not going to jump over the case head.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. And if you've
yeah,
had that happen, that's the worst case scenario. You're going to be looking for a cleaning rod to pop that sucker out.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, those kinds of things are, they're rarities, I think,
Yeah.
nowadays. You know, ammunition is pretty consistent and high quality. Um, but I think it's the unknown, right? You
Hmm.
have that happen at the wrong time, and it could be disaster to your hunt. Um, so those things to me are, they were more important than purely making an action as economically as possible,
Yeah.
right? That's been done to death, and I can't compete there anyway.
Yeah.
Um, we can't possibly manufacture enough in Alberta to
Yeah.
to
Oh,
be
yeah.
cost
Yeah.
competitive.
Totally. Well, maybe
Yeah.
now with
Yeah.
all the tariffs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's good to see those builders because like yourself pushing it to the outer limits because you get such a unique feature set and just everything's tailored around like we know like there's no rifle that's going to do everything perfect, but there are some
That's
rifles that are
right.
going to do exceptional things at those niche outer limit, like for lightweight. Do you want to talk about some of the like your stock and
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
some of that like ergonomics and
Yeah.
materials
I'd
you're
love to.
using?
Yeah. So the stock, I think everybody knows this by now, but Wildcat Composites here in Alberta makes my stocks for me. Um, I came up with or I developed the stock design. I built the original mold plug, um, and then we built the molds from that. But it's it's a fairly compact stock overall, but at the same time, it's fits really well, and it's got some of the features that you're going to see in other high end stocks, and I'll just talk a little bit about that. Um, One of them I think, which is super important for recoil management, and I'll spin this around this way, it's easier to see, is the negative comb. You can see the comb line there. So, number one, it gets your head up and you get really good cheek weld and eye alignment, a good natural point of aim.
Yeah.
So, you don't need a cheek riser or a bag on here to have your eye in the right spot. And I guess just to talk a little bit more about that, the stock itself was designed in conjunction with the ring height.
Yeah.
So, we only do one ring height, and that's because, we want your eye to be in the right spot. So you have that natural point of aim. And, whether you get we make both 1 inch and 30 mil rings. And, yeah, it's like your eye just comes to the perfect center. That comb keeps your head up and
Yep.
eye in good alignment. The other aspects are, I think, one really important aspect, which a lot of stocks don't incorporate, is palm swell. So we've got a really nice ambidextrous palm swell on this stock.
That's a really nice touch because, that's something that, especially like my dad who shot the traditional stocks,
Yeah.
he likes the McMillan style, but he
Yes.
still gravitates towards that more traditional hand position. So then he can get all the benefits from the palm swell without having to compromise on having a more like up and down grip position.
Yeah.
And for making offhand shots, that's there. I don't know if there's anything more accurate than that.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously we're always going to try and build a position, but if you're talking about that handy rifle that you're going to be packing around a lot, that to me seems like a really smart idea to have the palm swell integrated with a more traditional style.
Yeah. And that was the goal, right? Like, for for purely hunting, I mean,
Yeah,
there's always opportunities that come up where, whether you're elk hunting or mule deer hunting or even sheep hunting, where
yeah,
you might not have time to, deploy the bipod or the
yeah,
tripod, or right.
yeah,
Sometimes it's like, you get in your sling, maybe it's only 100 yards or whatever, and it's go time. Um, so yeah, I wanted to keep, some of those more traditional lines, but have some modernity to it, so it's, yeah, comfortable to shoot and you can actually control it a little bit. I think that's one of the things that always killed me about the slim stocks, was how thin they were through the grip,
yeah,
and the wrist, right? It's like you have no contact except at the heel of your hand and your fingers.
yeah.
Um,
What's your length of pole range?
12 and 3/4 to 14 and a quarter.
Oh, perfect.
So pretty broad.
Yeah,
Um, and then, yeah, one of the other aspects of the stock I'll show you is just the flats. So it is flat, tip to tail, um, which is pretty nice for shooting over a backpack or any kind of support, so that your rifle doesn't want to roll off. Um, yeah,
do you have
add some stability.
any features for attaching a bipod?
Yeah, so right now we're doing the Spartan system.
Yep.
And honestly, I think, like, how these integrate, they're flush. They weigh so little. Like, for me, for a hunting rifle, I think it's the right solution. Um, and the weight, right? Like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
the
I
style of
know.
hunting, it's very
Yes,
it's ambush. You're not really rushing anything with sheep hunting because you're judging it through legal. You're
yeah,
getting into an advantageous ambush position.
totally.
Yeah, so I completely understand that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, if you go and use a Spartan system, even at the range or even out to 500 plus yards, you'll be surprised at how stable they are. I know there are obviously more stable platforms than that, but for purely a hunting rifle, they work they work exceptionally well. Yeah.
Talk to me about what is your trigger design based off of? Is it
Yeah,
like a trigger tack or
it
Remington
is. Yeah.
700
So
style?
we actually use the Trigger Tech Kimber 84M trigger.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and the reason is it actually attaches vertically with one screw to the receiver versus the Remington with the two cross
Yeah.
pins. And so it just meant that we could keep the rear end of the receiver a little trimmer to go with the Kimber
Yeah.
versus the 700 trigger. Yeah, just save some material there. But yeah, they're I mean, probably everybody and their dog has a trigger tech by now, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I would assume. I do have some Timney Elites, but
Yeah,
any of the new stuff that I'm putting together, it's always trigger tacks. I love those
yeah,
things. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And they're a Canadian company,
Yeah,
so
exactly. There you go.
yeah, yeah.
What kind of scopes do you usually recommend to guys to put on their rifles?
Um, you know what? It's it honestly doesn't matter to me. I mean, I've always been a Loophole fan, from a weight perspective.
Yeah.
You know, this one's got a VX5 on it, 3 to 15. Um, but honestly, I think any high quality scope that is, I'll say, less than, you know, 23, 24 ounces would be suitable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a rifle with a Zeiss V4 on it, 4
Yeah.
to 16. Those are, that scope's been super repeatable. Um, yeah, it's been a great scope. I really like this Loophole. I haven't shot this one a ton. We actually had it out today with this. This is the 20-inch 308. And I didn't shoot the rifle. I actually had a customer shoot the rifle, and from the bipod, from the tripod out to 550 yards and back, it was dead nuts. So it's, you know, hard to argue with that. Um, a few guys I've talked to are like, well, why don't you offer the Night Force? And
They're just
it's
heavy.
like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the 2.5 to 10 would be a great option.
Yep.
Um,
Is
but
there a
honestly,
is there an objective lens restriction just for how tight you're wanting it?
yeah. So I mean, this is a 44. There's a little bit of gap there. Some 50s will fit, but really 44 is the kind of the practical maximum,
Yeah.
And honestly, for these rifles, like, I don't think you're gaining anything by putting a bigger scope on, right? Like,
No.
this thing as it sits, it's under 6 pounds. Um, yeah, I definitely don't feel the need for more optic on it. It
No,
it would
especially for the
probably,
distances that you're going to be shooting,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
that's right. If you're talking 500 or even 600 yards and in, yeah, to me, 15 power or that
Yeah.
15, 16 is really sweet for a hunting rifle, because it allows you lots of zoom. I mean, I hunted with a straight 6 for years, and I killed stuff out to 400 yards, and people would, friends of mine would be like, "Can you even see it?" And it's like, well, the center of the crosshairs is still the center of the crosshairs.
And it
Like,
looks really steady.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I mean, there's so many good optic options. It's
yeah,
kind of pick your poison, right? Like,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. So, what about what kind of barrels you guys you throwing on those builds?
So we're using exclusively IBI barrels from Chilliwack, um, both the carbon and the stainless, and basically they're producing my contour for me. Um, yeah, and they've been great so far. I've been really happy with the quality. Um, and they're pretty quick on delivery too. They've got their deliveries down now to like 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of people I think they don't understand the benefits of a match barrel Do you want to break down the differences? Factories, like
Mm,
factory configured rifles, they're pretty good, but they do have their
yeah.
issues with stress and stringing. Do you want to break down uh, your builds and just where that accuracy comes from?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously it starts with a good barrel. That's number one.
Yeah,
And I think IBI has that figured out. Most of their barrels are 5R rifled,
yeah.
and they hand lap their barrels as well. Um, so when I get them and inspect them, I mean they're very smooth. Um,
Are they cut or swaged?
they're cut.
They're cut. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome because you can get the exact dimensions from doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, they've been really easy to clean. Um, I mean, the break-in has been super minimal. Like, the rifles I had at the show, I basically put 20 or 30 rounds through them back in January after I built them, and it was like, I ran 2 rounds of patches through them, and there's no copper in any of them, just basically just powder. So,
Oh, that's
okay, well,
wicked. Yeah.
I guess they're good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
that's
is
that's actually wicked because
yeah,
normally I found you got to put 500 down the tube before you start getting that stabilization on the fouling. Uh, I've had some mixed luck with proofs. I've had a couple weird barrels where they just foul incessantly, where
right,
I'd have to run even just a brush through it just to clean off debris. It seemed like it was just constantly having issues getting into that stable fouled
right.
zone.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's something really to consider. Just I think with just quality of life, just having something shoot. What have you been typically seeing for load mock-ups and reloads? How quick are they getting into that? What do you have an accuracy guarantee?
yeah. So our accuracy guarantees 3/4 of a minute. Um, and that's just 3 shots at 100 yards.
Yeah.
Which I mean, most of these rifles, they've met that easily with a few different ammunitions. The one disappointment was the Barnes LRX in the
Yeah.
6.5 Creedmoor. I was really hoping
Yeah.
it it would be more accurate, but I think the most accurate rifle I've built has been a 7mm .08, the stainless barreled one. I've shot a couple like 3/8 inch groups with it. Um, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be fussy at all. I haven't hand loaded for all of them across the board. Just the 7/08s. That's what I'm set up for component wise. So most of the accuracy testing is done with factory ammo.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, because if it's
Yeah,
three
yeah,
quarter with factory, I think
yeah,
a lot of people don't understand how hard that is to achieve with factory because it is kind of finicky and it is tricky because you're kind of limited to a certain like only 3-4 choices depending on what manufacturer. What
totally.
typically have you been running the Hornadies or like nozzle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The Hornady stuff's been really
it,
consistent, man. It's
it's wicked.
crazy. It
Yeah,
is. I mean, it wasn't the most accurate. Actually, the Federal 135 Burger was the
yeah.
most accurate in the Creedmoor. Um, but in the 7/08, like that 150 grain precision hunter load, man, like I mean, to be able to sit down and shoot, you know, a half-inch group or whatever is
In
pretty
factory,
amazing to
that
me,
is amazing.
right? Um, especially in a rifle that weighs, right? It's 5 pounds 2 ounces without the scope and rings, so it's pretty
That's
damn
light.
good.
That's
Yeah,
wicked. Yeah,
yeah,
so I guess this is the perfect time to start talking about just your uh your rifle build. Like I know you got the Zenith. Do you want to talk
yeah.
about kind of your product line and
Sure,
what you offer?
sure, yeah, yeah. So I mean, really, the product right now is centered around one action size.
Yeah.
It's our Model 30, and it's a 3-inch internal magazine length action with a standard bolt face. They are all right hands. you wouldn't believe how many left-handed people I've met in the last year. It makes me wonder if I shouldn't have just built all left hands to start with.
Yeah, it's not
But
something you see though. Like I don't see lefties.
no,
I see them shooting right-handed,
yes,
which king of
yeah,
2 miles, some of those guys are the best shooters. They just they learn and they
yeah,
crank them out.
that's right. Yeah.
Wild.
But yeah, so the product is really built around that action. The stock right now we have one stock design. So the options are really barrels, whether you want to go with a carbon or a stainless, and we're doing both 20 and 22 inch. Um, and then yeah, currently 4 different cartridges, which we will be expanding pretty quickly here. Um, yeah, we're going to be obviously I'm testing the 65284.
Yep.
I have a 338 build I'm going to do, which should be interesting. A 338 Federal. Um, that should be fun.
Are you running
Yeah.
brakes on your barrels?
Yes, yes. But you know what? Surprisingly, like, I mean, even I had so many comments. People are like, "Oh, a 4.5 pound 308. That's got to be fun to shoot." Um, but I mean, honestly, it's all about stock geometry.
Yeah.
If the stock geometry is right and it fits you right, it's not a problem. Um, like I had a guy, my customer today who shot this. He probably put 20 rounds through this rifle, and I mean, it's a pussycat to shoot. So the 338 might be a little bit different, um, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun one. Yeah, that'll be a fun build for sure.
Do you want
Yeah,
to
I'm looking forward to that.
talk about your stocks and just like for bag riding? That's one thing I liked
Mm,
about your stocks, just how it's just an actual angle and not a bag rider in there. And
right.
just break
You're
down
talking
why.
about the
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess number one, I like having flats,
Yeah.
so that we have that stability. You don't get that rifle yaw
Yeah.
left and right. Um, but also having a straight line there allows the stock to slide under recoil.
Yeah.
Um, so you're not drastically changing your sight picture. Um, I think what happens a lot of times if you do have notched stocks, or
Yeah.
even you see people, they'll put a bag behind their sling swivel stud. If you're stopping that rifle from being able to recoil smoothly and you're putting something in its path, that's when you get a lot more muzzle jump and erratic recoil response.
Yeah.
And especially in light rifles, like the effects can be amplified and just make the accuracy harder to achieve for sure.
Yeah, that's one
But
thing I
yeah,
noticed in my personal rifles, like the A5 Macmillan. I
yeah,
wasn't a fan of that notch because I felt like I was always riding bags right on the edge versus
yes,
a straight edge like that where it's angled nicely so you can get that change if you need to with moving your
yeah,
bag position. And under recoil, they recoil straight back, and how ergonomic it is. You're able, especially with your scope height, you're able to get that comb and that butt of that stock a little higher up, and then it's more in
yeah,
line with the recoil.
totally. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, they're all small things, right? Like
Yeah,
it's very nuanced stuff, but once you experience that, the natural point of aim and the recoil response, and it all
yeah,
comes together, then it makes sense, right? Yeah, and that's a lot of people who've picked these up have been surprised at how well they fit, um, because I think they're used to, higher scope mounts,
yeah.
maybe a straight or even dropping comb. Yeah, and it's just hard to get your head in the right position. I struggled with that for years. That was one of my biggest complaints always. unless you went aftermarket with a specialty stock, it was really hard to find that good cheek weld and eye alignment. Yeah.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you about your rifles. So we talked about like barrels. Is that a standard length? Is that like that's the standard, or do you have variation in your barrel lengths?
Yeah, so barrel length, we really are focused on 20 and 22 inch right now. Um, we could go longer or shorter,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit, but I really find that's the sweet spot for especially these cartridges. I don't think you need more than
Yeah.
22 inches of barrel. Um, and they're compact and they balance well. What I wouldn't want to do is, put an 18-inch barrel and have it be, you're moving that balance point more
Yeah.
rearward, and you start to destroy the dynamics of the rifle a little bit. Um, one thing we didn't touch on, I know you mentioned it, was just hand load limits or
Yeah.
cartridge limits. Yeah, so realistically, like, this being designed to handle the 284, the 6.5 284 cartridge, um, what what I'm finding, and ultimately the design was designed to be safe up to, as much pressure as the case head can hold. So we're not limited there, but what limits this action is really that case head expansion. So once you get to the point where um, you're yielding that brass in the case head and it's not, recovering away from the bolt face,
Yeah.
you wind up having load on the bolt face after you've shot, and then that's where you get that heavy bolt lift, right?
Yeah.
So there's really, that's the limiting factor with brass cases, which is, 7 millimeter backcountry.
Don't even get me started about that thing. I'm kind of like, oh, so we wanted to get our money back on our military contract that Sid got. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard some
Yeah,
things. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
yeah,
I'm not
fair
gonna
enough.
get into that.
Fair enough.
So,
Yeah. But yeah,
what
I
kind
mean,
of coatings?
I should just, I've ran, like the first prototype I built was a 708, and I was, you know, uh, I'm a hand loader and I wanted to shoot some warm loads for a few
Yeah.
hundred rounds just to prove it out for myself that we weren't going to have any galling or any other
Yeah.
issues or extraction issues. So my hand load was a 162 ELDX at 2715
Yeah.
in that rifle, which is a hot load in a 708 with a 22-inch barrel. Some people might think that's silly, and I will say the primer pockets held up,
That's
but
good.
it was definitely sticky extraction on every trigger pull.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no concerns about the action longevity itself. It's really premium materials and yeah, quality stuff for sure.
What kind of coatings are you using? Are you running just bare or
We
or
are,
nitro?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, well, I shouldn't say that. So any of the alloy steel parts are nitrided.
Yep.
So in this case, we've got a. I'll just back this up here. We've got a bolt shroud, and some internal parts in the bolt shroud and the safety that are nitrided. The safety switch itself is actually nitrided 17-4 stainless. So if it's alloy steel, it's been nitrided. Otherwise, it's either stainless, titanium, or hard anodized aluminum. So all the fasteners, I'll say, are stainless as well. Yeah, yeah. And one thing I didn't touch on actually, which I should, is just the fact that we produce almost every single part of this rifle in Canada. So the entire action, the rings,
I was going to
you know,
ask about the rings next because
yeah,
I was poking around on your website and I was wondering because that's a unique thing. There, you know, when you that's one thing I'll say for guys that are looking to make these Frankenstein guns, they don't have the cohesiveness. That's
yeah,
where guys I think go wrong sometimes. I have this action and I have this barrel and this stock and I kind of and they always forget about the bottom metal
yeah,
and how it all works together in a cohesive manner where everything is meant and engineered to work in unison. And that's really what I think you nailed here and you hit it out of the park is
yeah,
just everything is centered around this design feature to be lightweight, good handling, and shoot and be effective and intensify the things you're trying to accomplish in the environments that you're going to be in, which is you got to be able to shoot 5 to 600 yards. You're probably not going to be rattling off rounds, so you're going to be packing, so it needs to handle really well. I think that's where, a lot of guys don't think about the handling with like detachable box mags. I hate it in a hunting scenario because that mag, it's digging into your back or your shoulder if you're donning it
right,
without a gun bearer. And the mags can fall into the snow or on the ground or like you name it. It's really
yeah,
nice to see this very clean looking rifle where
right,
everything is manufactured. You've thought clearly about every single piece that's on this rifle and how it comes together in a package. I think that's where guys go wrong. They jumble it up and it kind of works okay together, but there's
yeah,
issues. There's inletting issues. There's fitment issues. There's a number of accuracy issues that can come from that. And
totally.
yeah, I just love what you're making here, man. It's
Thank you.
very unique, very unique. I was looking forward to this podcast for a couple weeks now, where I was like, man, like I haven't seen anyone getting away. Well, I shouldn't say that. I see this trend of the tactical, heavy duty world where,
Yeah,
yes, it's cool, the technology's cool, but you have to think about it from the lens of what you want to accomplish.
100%. And I mean, I think that was one of the big drivers for me is watching the hunting space
Yeah.
be so heavily influenced by the shooting space, right? By the sports shooting space. And what was, the approach seemed to be what was good for sports shooting was good for hunting. And to a point, yes, right? But when you're talking about mountain hunting and you know, packing your bag for a week or 10 days or longer, um, yeah, it's like
You kind of get
I didn't
lost.
see, well, the benefits of having a heavy rig are they benefits anymore? Um, let's be honest, right? Like, how far is your average shot on a big game animal? I don't care if you're hunting sheep or elk or deer in the mountains. The longest sheep I've been on half a dozen sheep kills now, and the longest was 320 yards.
Yeah,
Um, the average is probably 200. So, yeah, do you need to pack that PRS machine
I don't
for
think so.
a week? Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
so. The I went down that road of the target shooting and kind of influenced by that tactical side because the heavy McMillans, Night Force scopes, you're getting into the 10-pound range and
Yeah.
they shoot great. They look
Yes.
good on the bench, but when you get them in the field, there's some serious issues. There's some weight penalties. You think about how many shots you're and shot opportunities you're getting.
Yeah.
Typically, most of my shots have been that 500-600 yards. Like that's the max range. I feel like most people are going to be put in where they can shoot ridge to ridge. The rest of them are 150, 200,
Yeah.
300, or 50 yards. Like you just have to be honest
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
do you want to intensify your mobility to get those opportunities?
Yeah.
Or do you want that max range that you probably aren't going to utilize? And that's what I see. I'm always reaching for those lighter weight builds now. I
Yeah.
still am on the heavy. I'm kind of amateur compared to what you're doing. I'm in that 7 to 8 pound fully
Yeah.
loaded. Um,
Nice.
with a night force. Like obviously there's a big penalty with that, but and a
Yep.
bipod. But I think that's what guys need to think about. What you're offering is very niche and very performance driven to intensify mobility and
Totally.
yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
something that guys need to think about. Not the sexy range queen crap. Just how are you
Right.
gonna actually shoot this thing in the field and packing it around?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody wants to give up performance either.
No.
Right? When it comes down to that shot. And so to me that is important. Um, but it's being able to deliver that in a package that, checks all the other boxes too. Um, yeah, having a lightweight rifle, I mean, the weight is only one single aspect of it, right? That's
Yeah.
nice when it's on your pack, but when you actually go to shoot it, that's when, um, the balance, the ergonomics, and the holistic approach to the mounts and the bolt handle geometry and all the rest of it, um, stock geometry come into play.
I didn't ask it. I was going to ask it.
Yeah.
What is your bolt angle for extraction? Is it like for
Oh,
bolt lift?
it's a two lug 90-degree bolt.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a look at it here. We can see it on screen. But it's got good clearance, but
Three
not
position safety.
three position safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Winchester style safety. Um, Middle position, you can still operate the bolt. Rear position, it's locked out. And it is on the cocking piece itself. So super safe.
That's really nice, man. Yeah, that's really nice because I know for people that are hiking into position, especially mountain style hunting, you want that lockdown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I like the security of it.
Yeah.
Not that the trigger mounted safeties don't work, but apparently they don't sometimes.
Yeah, I don't use the safeties. I
No,
don't. I keep that bolt handle closed in an empty
yeah,
chamber and I don't
totally.
even chamber. I don't mess with that either.
Yeah,
It's good to know, especially if you're having your kid use this rifle, it's
yeah,
really good to have that three position instead of just on off because then they can cycle and they're completely safe. How does
that's
that
right.
engage the sear with that safety?
So when you rotate the safety lever itself, it basically cams into the cocking piece and it pulls the cocking piece rearward. So there's about 12 to 15 thousandths of an inch that it pulls that cocking piece off the trigger sear. And so you're essentially just, putting a gap between the trigger sear
So it's
and the cocking
100%
piece.
safe.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you bet. Yeah. And, as it is a blind mag, it's nice to be able to have a position where, you can put the safety on and still operate the bolt, unload it while it's on safe,
Yes. Yeah.
you know? Yeah, that's a
What is
nice feature.
what is your perfect build?
Oh, um,
You can only choose one caliber. What is your
yeah,
go-to?
yeah. Honestly, I've shot a 7 millimeter aught eight for almost 2 decades. Um, I've killed a couple bull elk. I've killed a couple bighorn sheep, mule deer, whitetails. There's basically nothing it can't do inside 500 yards. I mean, that's my honest opinion. Um, you choose a good bullet and you go hunting, and you're not punished for recoil. And they're accurate. Yeah, yeah. The prototype rifle I built, I've hunted with it for 2 years, but I've only killed one big game animal, and that was a bull elk at 350 yards. Um, I did shoot it twice. It didn't. It turned after the first shot, but I mean, I think it was already dead on its feet.
I've never not shot them more
Yeah,
than
if
once.
they're still
It's
standing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
guys. It's interesting that especially on Instagram, you see a lot of shit talking. Oh, that's a 6.5 Creedmoor. It's like, tell me you haven't shot elk without telling me. It's like that's realistic.
yeah,
I've ran big 30s for a long time, and every
yeah,
time you like even if you shut them down like a big like a hit them with a 210 VLD, like, they get up, they can still run a pretty far distance. It's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, guys get lost in the sauce on that shit. They don't realize that shot placement and like you're shooting a big bullet here. Like you're killing elk with bows and arrows. Like this is a rifle. Like
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And a
But yeah, I mean,
7.8 is definitely enough to get it done.
oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
with a 160, that was with a 160 grain bullet. Um, the nice thing is with the 3-inch magazine in these rifles, you can load long. Like you can load those 160s out over 2.9 inches. Um, so you get a little more performance there, but you can also, get close to the lands and really tune your load. Um, yeah, so I mean, the 7.8 has always worked really well for me. Um, I think if I was planning on shooting further, then yeah, you definitely would want to step up. I mean, the 284 will give you probably another 100 feet per second of velocity with the
yeah.
same barrel length. Which, does that get you practically it probably gives you another 100 yards to work with. And then beyond that, I don't think that's a game to be played with super light rigs.
No, I don't think so either. No. Yeah.
Getting pretty far.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I love what you're doing. And
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, like this is wicked stuff, man. And why don't you let the listeners know where they can get a hold of you or see what you're up to?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The website is great. There's tons of information there, as well as a configurator so you can actually see what you're building. It's got a built-in menu with all of the options for what we're offering currently, and that's alpineriflecraft.ca. And then as well on Facebook and Instagram, that's, you can see lots of pictures and trade show stuff, etc. And that's Alpine Riflecraft on both of those platforms.
I'll have all
Yeah,
those links below on the
sweet,
show here. Yeah.
right on. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to get you to test one of these.
Hell
Get some
yeah.
range time. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
man. Yeah, for sure. I'll text you next time I'm in Calgary.
Sure. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
set something up.
Yeah, man. All right, Mike. Well, thanks for the chat and
Yeah.
yeah, it was wicked talking with you.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks a lot, Derek. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See ya.